Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode here at the Raspy Dispatcher. Thanks so much for joining. A little life update. It's been a weird month. I went out to Colorado to visit my family, and the day after I got back, I had a little tickle in my throat and ended up having COVID and being down for a solid 7 or 8 days. 0 out of 5 stars. Do not recommend. It was not a fun process, but I am happy to be back here, bringing more content, bringing more people on to talk about their experience with dispatch with you guys. If you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. I'm super excited to announce we have surpassed over 2,000 subscribers this month with over 100,000 views. So many people checking out the videos, using them to help them prepare to pass their Criticall, their interview, and just get to know more information about the job of a dispatcher. So that's super exciting. And thank you if you have already subscribed. Of course, you can check us out on Instagram, Facebook, and all the other socials. And with all that being said, and with that being out of the way, I just wanted to take the time, bring on my guest today. I'm super excited that I was able to get them to come on and connect with us here. I've really been looking for someone who has the knowledge, experience with the fire dispatching side of things. And that person is Jordan Villwock, and he's going to come on with us today. Hi, Jordan.
Hi, Ashley. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate you being willing to jump on with me with a really short notice. I think I messaged you on LinkedIn 2 days ago, maybe. I don't know. I work graveyard, so time's weird. And we were able to get this going today. So thank you so much for being responsive and willing.
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. So, just tell me a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you got into public safety,
Yeah,
things of that nature.
absolutely. So I'm actually just starting my 19th year and it's public service here.
Ooh,
So I started a long time ago as a police explorer when I was in high school. So law enforcement was always an interest of mine, and I jumped into the police explorer program, which for anyone that's young and is interested both on the police and fire side, it's a great way to learn a little bit more about the career, get some great mentors, and have a lot of fun at the same time. So that's where I started with the Laguna Beach Police Department as a police explorer. And then that really led me to the next step. I realized that maybe working in the field wasn't the best suit for me and fit my personality. And so I was able to start doing a little bit of learning about dispatch, and eventually was able to land a police and fire dispatch position with the Laguna Beach Police Department, where I worked for, my total career there was about 15 years, about 12 in
Wow.
dispatch. And so that's kind of where I learned the dispatch piece. We dispatch police, fire, and marine safety, which is very unique out of one center. Busy city. We had two dispatchers at one time. Sometimes we had a third dispatcher. I promoted to a senior dispatcher and really took over some leadership pieces of it. And then I was able to take on the role as the emergency manager for the city and disaster preparedness and emergency preparedness, and just teaching volunteers in the community. And that kind of led me to be competitive for the position I currently have now, which is the fire administrative director, which one of the divisions I oversee is fire dispatch, which I think is why you reached out to me, Ashley, was to learn a little bit about the fire dispatch piece. So that's
Yeah, no,
on Jordan.
definitely. Awesome. No, I think it's, we were talking a little before we got going, is that, I always knew that I was going to be in the field of emergency response, criminal justice in some way, shape, or form. I got my, undergrad and my graduate degree with that in mind. And when I got into the field, or when I started looking to get into the field, dispatch kind of happened. And that's when I realized after all my education, no one ever really talked about dispatch, and we never really explored that avenue during my education. And I just was like, wow, this is just such a great opportunity for those who go in thinking they were going to do one job and maybe end up going and doing another, like you had.
Yeah.
Um, so it's definitely a great opportunity for folks. Now, in regards to like, so I only do police. I don't do any medical, any fire. Only experience that I have of fire is, oh, you need medical, let me transfer you. Oh, something's burning, let me transfer you. So, with your experience working with both, what would you say are the differences between, say, a department that just dispatches police and a department that does fire and medical?
Well, there's a lot of differences, so it's kind of hard to break it down a little bit. But one of the big
Mm-hmm.
differences I can see is that typically, as a law enforcement dispatcher or police dispatcher, the calls are much shorter. You're getting a lot of information
Mm-hmm.
quickly. You're asking questions. You're entering calls. It's very, very fast paced, and those calls are typically shorter in length, generally.
Yeah.
Now, on the medical side or the fire dispatch side, our calls are much longer in length. That our 911 calls are averaging about 4 to 5 minutes where we're on the phone with the individual because we're we're one of the few EMD certified through the International Academies of Emergency Dispatch here in
Mm-hmm.
Ontario, where I work currently, and we provide very in-depth pre-arrival instructions that
Mm-hmm.
we follow. And it takes a long time to get a lot of information and go through what we call Pro QA, which is a series of questions depending on the answers, which could involve us telling people to take medication over the phone or instructing CPR. And
Mm-hmm.
those calls, we typically stay on the phone until first responders arrive on scene.
Wow.
So that you do see people taking a lot longer on those calls just because of the nature of the call.
Mm-hmm.
One of the benefits of being a police and fire dispatcher, especially if you're a secondary PSAP, if the calls are getting transferred to you, is most of your calls have already been triaged. They've already been answered by
Mm-hmm.
law enforcement. They already kind of realize what they want. So um, we have a much more specific focus where you're just doing medical and pre-arrival, or you're sending help for a fire or a traffic accident. Where a law enforcement dispatcher, you can answer the phone and somebody's asking for a pizza to an intoxicated person that's just going off on the police department. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's a little different clientele and how things focus. So those are kind of the main differences I could see.
Okay, for sure. So, can you tell me a little bit about the hiring process for someone who's considering, kind of what direction they want to go, what departments they want to apply for, and if they want to dispatch police, fire, medical, what the hiring process looks like for a typical fire dispatcher?
So here in my agency, we do a full background on every fire dispatcher as well. So we do the same process. It's use the same post standards as a law enforcement to conduct a full background, polygraph, psych, medical, the full boat, because we are one unit here in our city, and we
Mm-hmm.
do have access to each other's information and CLET's
Mm-hmm.
information, and do have abilities because we have fire investigators to have access, this CLET's access. So we default, because of the safety element, to doing a full background in our fire agency. I know some other agencies do things differently as secondary
Mm-hmm.
PSAPs, but that's our stance here in Ontario, is they do the full.
Awesome. Okay. Do you guys utilize the a Criticall pre-employment test or a post um, kind of pre-employment test that for your guys' process?
No, we actually don't. So
Okay.
I know there are a lot of larger agencies that might. We don't. We have a dispatch center where we have three as our minimum
Okay.
staffing level. One of them is being a shift supervisor. It's a working position. And
Mm-hmm.
we do have some cover shifts where we will have four on during the peak hours of the day. So we have a total staff of about 15, 16, including the manager that is in our dispatch
Okay.
division.
Okay. Perfect.
Also,
And
Ashley, as I can
go
do a
ahead.
plug, we actually
Yeah.
are opening up a full time and part time recruitment for Ontario Fire Dispatch, which is a pretty rare opportunity. We have people that have long tenures here. We don't see much turnover like you
Oh,
might see in some police dispatch centers, or a majority of them. It's just the nature of the beast.
yeah.
So it's opening up on July 5th, and I think it's open for a couple weeks. And
Awesome.
so we look for that job posting if anyone's interested.
So you know that I'm all for getting dispatchers hired, getting more dispatchers into this field. So of course, when Jordan asked if he could plug the current job opening, or I'm sorry, very soon to be job opening for his department, how could I say no? So here's a little bit more information about the Ontario Fire Department. And again, like Jordan said, this job posting is not online yet. It is going to go live on July 5th. But in the meantime, head on over to joinofd.org. That's join Ocean Frank David.org to check out a great site with a bunch of information about their department and see if it'll be a good fit for you. So let's go ahead and check out this awesome video so you can learn more about the department.
Everything that the firefighters go out and do every single day has to be supported by our fire administration.
I knew I didn't want to run into burning buildings or be on those medical calls. I saw that there was other things, not just firefighter. There's the people you need to help prevent the fires. There's the people you need to ensure codes are being met.
There's nothing better than having someone on the other line. They're calling their worst time of their life at that moment, and just to hear a sigh of relief or, a thank you at the end of the call because you helped them.
As EMS director, I love the fact that I can take care of the firefighters and paramedics on one hand, and I can ensure that they're taking care of the patients or the citizens on the other.
We typically, on a daily basis, get into work, do our morning briefings, talk.
Our workout time is considered from 7 to 9 in the morning. Guys can do whatever they want. They want to work out here, do a little bit of circuit training.
We are performing station maintenance, station cleanup. We're training. We need to keep our skill sets fresh, ready to go. So we take those opportunities to train and train often.
I look forward to coming to work to see my brothers and sisters, whoever may be here at the day.
Whether it's fire administration to captains and firefighters and engineers on the floor, it feels like one big family.
We really enjoy each other. We help cook, we clean up together, and we assemble to recognize the end of our workday.
For the Ontario Fire Department, we just want individuals that are going to have great attitudes, they're going to work hard, being a team player.
Multitask, somebody that has that customer service.
When they call 911, they expect a professional, they expect somebody with honesty and integrity.
We also look for people that are compassionate and also passionate about what they do. A good servant leader.
Doing the right thing the right way at the right time. No shortcuts, then you belong here.
I love being an Ontario firefighter. You can't beat the backdrop here with the mountains, and the city has everything from malls to convention centers to sports arenas, and our city is 100% supportive of the fire service.
This department is amazing. They have so much to offer. We have very nice equipment here.
We are growing like crazy. Coming out to our department, you are going to be welcomed with open arms.
The potential for adding another couple, 2-3 stations at our department, and to be part of that.
Knowing that you have backup from the union, backup from the management, and all decisions that have been made collaboratively together. I think it just makes for a fantastic place to start your career.
People come here, they stay, and for good reason, because we take care of our people, we take care of each other, and we make this place an awesome place to work.
I mean, that is saying something that if you guys aren't having a lot of turnover in your dispatch center about the way you guys are running things and the level of happy, folks are feeling working for the department, because dispatch overturn and turnover and shortages are such a real thing in this line of work. So
we have 15 dispatchers that work the floor, and of the 15, we have an average of 150 hours of experience in fire dispatch on our floor. So it's about on average 10 years per employee. There's some obviously more and some less, but it averages out to about 10 years, which is pretty phenomenal. And it speaks a lot towards the culture that we have here in Ontario and how well our dispatchers work and enjoy it. So
yeah, no, that is really awesome. Really awesome. Yep. So you guys have about the size of an agency that I am currently working with. I came from a really large agency where we had 10, 12, 15 folks answering, or 8 phones and radios. And then I lateral into a smaller agency where most overnights it's me and one other person in the room. which was like for me mind blowing, like a total shift in how things are going. So with that being said, are you guys typically on a traditional shift work, like a 12-hour shift, swings, graveyard um, type of rotation for your guys' center?
Yeah, so we have two shifts, so we have days and nights, and so
Okay.
it's 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. and 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. We do have a couple mid shifts that we have slotted for, and those vary between 8 to 8 or 10 to 10 to cover those mids, and that's kind of fluid depending on the time of year and what we decide for the next shift pick. But that's kind of how we have it set up.
Okay, cool. One thing that I do wonder is that so for police dispatch, we have a lot of freedom of how we interact with our callers, the questions that we ask, the manner in which we ask them. Of course, you know we have to get certain basic information to get things going and moving. But I believe from talking to other folks who have done it all with dispatching is that they have used some type of prompting system or software that kind of helps them navigate the medical side of things. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So what you're describing is what I talked about, which is called Pro QA, which is that software that has the exact verbiage that we have to use as we progress through emergency medical dispatching. Because we're accredited, we're required to QI or listen back. Our supervisors that are QI trained listen to, I believe we have to do between 1% and 3% a month. We pull randomly. The system sends it to our queues, and the queues go through and listen to it to make sure that it meets standards and that it's in compliance. So on average, we pull just a little under 100 calls a month that we actually have to listen to from beginning to end, and that we have to rate them and submit them to the academy to make sure that we maintain our accreditation. So it is a little bit more stringent on the questions and how we go through the process. But I will let everyone know that once you do it for a little bit, it's like, you know, riding a bike. And so the questions are there and you have to follow certain things, but there's a little dispatcher discretion as well as how you travel through them. And that's why we use QI to make sure we're giving the best service to our customers.
Amazing. Cool. So looking back on how public safety has changed over the years, like you said, you've been doing this a long time. You've been in every aspect, I would say, of dispatch, from police to, you know, from explorer to dispatch police to dispatch fire and police. Looking back at all of that and how things have changed, what are some thoughts about how far we have come in, you know, dispatching emergency services and really where we're going with all the technology that's coming into play?
I mean, it's exciting. I definitely, when I started, and I'm not trying to say that I've been in a while, it's only been 18 years, right? But when I started, 911 calls on cell phones were still being routed through the highway patrol. They answered all the cell phone 911 calls and they would transfer them to our center, not even across Annie Alley. We would have to just take them on a 7-digit emergency and process it that way, to now where we're obviously able to get text messages, that the technology is there to get photos and videos. Obviously, all cell phones go direct to the Peace app, you know, within reason based on the cell tower locations. We're going to a cloud-based phone system, which is going to give us a lot more flexibility to work out of different centers if we need to get up and evacuate or have a large incident, that it gives us a lot more just capabilities with cloud-based systems. So the future is going to be challenging for dispatchers that have a lot of tenure to figure out those new processes, but also support them and realize that some of them, while it's going to be new, it's progress and it's needed. But we also have to keep in mind that dispatchers take the jobs to be behind the scenes, to hear the sounds, to listen to the voices, to abstract the information necessary to provide that to the field employees for the first responders, and having to, at some point, probably in the next 5 to 10 years, FaceTime with victims, have to see the people that they're giving CPR to, having to see the images that they're not accustomed to seeing is going to is going to impact our centers, and we need to be ready to support them with wellness programs, and we need to be able to support them on a different level than we currently do. And so I know all dispatch centers are going to need that support if that direction is going to change from the state level, that we're going to need some assistance.
Yeah, definitely. It's funny you bring that up. I don't recall the name of the program, but I remember reading an article that there was a dispatch center that had a program where they would send a text to their caller's phone with a link, and then it would pretty much create that like open FaceTime with that individual. So I think one of the examples they gave was they're like, oh, there's a vehicle accident, the car's on fire. And then they open the link and it's like a semi pulling like several eight cars. And it's like, well, that's different than a car just being on fire.
Yep.
As well as they mentioned medical and like being able to see the color of their lips and if they're blue or gray or like what, and that tells them what amount of air they're getting or something like that. My very faint memory of this, but it's true. We're getting to a day and age where tech is starting to catch up, or we're, I guess, starting to catch up with our technology that's moving so quickly that our services are going to be so different in 911.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
One thing also too, Ashley, is something I've talked on a few times, is that police and fire dispatchers, even when I started 18 years ago, you saw a lot more combined centers where they did both. And I think back then that you were really viewed as generalist as dispatchers, right? You're taking an address, you're getting a call type, and you're sending help, no matter if it was a red fire engine or if it was a black and white police car or it was a marine safety vehicle. And now in 2022, we're seeing much more specialists. Law enforcement dispatchers are required to use a lot more systems to run names for officer safety. They're viewing cameras. They're using ALPRs to see license plates and entering things that we just never did back in the day. And on the fire side, we're telling people to give Narcan. We're giving long-term CPRs, that we're sending large responses to wildland fires that we haven't seen before. And you're really going from a generalist to a specialist. And that's why having separate centers or people that have, or agencies that support the training that needs to take place for them to be proficient in both disciplines is super important, because we're requiring more of our dispatchers today than we did 18 years ago.
So true. I mean, even I've been doing this 4 years, and even from the moment that I started answering phone calls, they implemented text to 911. That got pushed out by the state during my, first 5 years. Programs like Rapid Deploy, Rapid SOS, those are becoming, the norm, the basic, and being able to locate people using that and text them directly through those services. I mean, even just in my shorter stint, the technology is just developing so quickly. I mean, even some of my dispatchers are like, we couldn't map our officers, 4 or 5 years ago. That system's new. And it's just wild to me how much technology really creates safer environments for citizens, safer environments for our units, and really reduces response time, which ultimately is saving more lives.
Yeah, and today where you could see agencies that would dispatch based on the AVL location or GPS location of a unit, right? Well, tomorrow's technology is going to be where it integrates current traffic patterns and road closures that are being pulled from Google Maps and things that already exist out there, to where we can send who's going to be the closest, where the unit might be further away in mileage, but actually closest because of realities of trains or traffic or construction and road closures, that those capabilities are live when you order like Uber Eats and Uber, right? That they're able to use that technology to send the correct. And so it's time for public safety to catch up on that avenue as well, and make sure that we are sending the fastest unit to those critical calls.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. That's so true. You were telling us that you guys also dispatch Marine units, and what does that look like? Are you able to like track them on the water the same way that we're able to track like a officer's car, or like you
Yeah.
guys using special maps, or what does that look like with operating Marine units?
So you have like the locations of the towers that exist.
Hmm.
So the towers are there, but they operate just like patrol units. So you have your tower guards that we don't control in the dispatch, or we didn't when I was there at the dispatch center. You controlled the unit. So whenever a lifeguard would go in for a rescue, that unit would start heading towards that tower in case they needed support. Or if there's a call for service for like a swimmer in distress, or a whatever it is, a kayaker in distress, that you would be sending the units, the patrol units, if you will, to the tower location to support them and also to do the rescue, because you can't leave a tower, unmanned for too long, especially on busy beaches. So that's kind of the process there. It's also after hours. If you work graveyards, you would get those random calls late at night, and you would have to send marine safety out there, and they have an on-call system, and we'd send police and first responders, but they would be backed up by the trained professionals that can do the marine safety rescues.
Awesome, very cool. It's just so again, like so many opportunities that dispatch has. I know I had a friend of mine who dispatched the medical like airlifts, helicopters, the airships, and there's just so many different types of dispatching out there, even past police, fire, medical. And one of the big things that one of my dispatch teachers taught us was like, once you learn to be a dispatcher, you can do anything. Like, the possibilities are endless. It's such a unique skill with unique abilities that you could really do anything.
And do your homework on the agencies that you're looking for, because it varies. If you are going to work in an urban environment or a city that is just basically streets and freeways, that it's one thing. But if you're going to work in a city like I did in Laguna Beach, that people would be in trails and hiking and biking and in the water, where you don't have 123 Main Street. You have to figure it out, and you have to use landmarks, and you have to use lat long to send help to it. So being able to think critically outside of just having a normal address. So knowing those types of things will help you prepare for what type of agency you want to work for.
Yeah, and really getting to know your agency and what makes you happy is super important when you're looking to get into this field, because one of the things people ask me about a lot is the training process and what that looks like, and schedules, and really getting to understand that while you're in training, you're going wherever you need to go to learn whatever you need to learn. And for some people's lives and home lives, that might not work for them, and which is totally okay. But saving yourself time, saving the department time, and really doing that research and seeing if this is a good fit is super important. Is one of the other things that I push in regards to getting that information out there is, what does it actually look like? I mean, we can definitely, paint the picture, pretty, and, it's great. We're always staffed, and shift work is wonderful, but there are challenges in the way that this job has to operate, because it is a 24/7 operation. And being honest with yourself, if that's going to work for you, I think is super relative to when you're considering getting into this field.
And no matter where you work in as a shift worker, you're going to miss birthdays, you're going to miss holidays, you're going to be held over on days where you're going to have to cancel plans, even important things, because at the end of the day, dispatchers do a critical role to our emergency system, and we need somebody there to answer the phones. And there's going to be times of staffing issues. There's going to be times where we are fully staffed, and then there's no overtime opportunities. So it's never going to be the perfect fit when it comes to work, but know that you have to have a passion for this job to do it, as you know, Ashley, that to be a complaint taker, it wasn't but 20 years ago, that's what they used to call it, because every phone call you answer is normally somebody that's not having a very good day or needs assistance. So it takes a special person to do that and a special person to work the shift work. And you said it perfectly. Do your homework before, because we don't want to get you through a background process, hiring. We're excited you're here, you're doing well, and then you're like, wait, I don't want to work Thanksgiving. It's like, well, that's how this works. Well, you know what? I'm out. I'm going to go do something else. So
yeah, definitely. So how do you feel that the job has changed you?
Well, I think my wife would say I have a hard heart now, because we're used to hearing things that a lot of people aren't used to hearing. And we also have to be ready to hang up the phone and get on to the next call that's coming in as well, too. So kind of sometimes feel like you aren't as sensitive to certain topics as maybe others that aren't in the emergency response realm. I think it's prepared me, though, being a dispatcher, that to provide great customer service, that it's fast-paced environment, you're always getting things done and on to the next. Being a dispatcher opened a lot of doors for me, where I was able to progress in my career to the position I'm at currently. I was able to do some studying, read some books when I was on shift. If you're working graveyards, that, during slower times, you can really try to move yourself forward. And it's changed me for the better. I think I really enjoyed it. And there's a lot of days where I sit up here at this desk and, man, wish that I was back down in dispatch today and handle calls in front of me, rather than doing a big staff report or something that my job now has. But I love supporting dispatchers. I love supporting my dispatchers, making sure they have the best equipment, the best technology, the best systems that they possibly can have to do their job, because I know exactly what it's like to sit in that seat and answer those phone calls, and having support from the top's important, and something that I've never forgotten where it came from.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. And just to close it out, kind of, put the bow on things. What advice would you give someone who's looking to get into this field, whether it be police only, fire, and medical dispatching?
Well, do a sit along. I'm sure you hear that a lot, but do a sit along, learn about the agencies, learn about the job, and take the post dispatcher course. Even if you want to go into medical or fire dispatching where it's not required, you learn a lot if you could put yourself through that course. Usually community colleges locally might have that course. I would say dive into that. You can learn a lot and see if the job's for you by going a couple nights a week during a semester to learn on top of the sit-alongs. Learn about the agency and learn about the profession, I think is probably the best tip to see if this is something for you. Some people it is, and some people love it, and some people don't thrive in this work environment. So make sure you do your homework beforehand.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on today with me, Jordan. I really appreciate all the knowledge, all the info you shared, and really the years that you've, put into dispatching. All the work you've been doing thus far has created the world of dispatching that I have stepped into. So I really appreciate your time and your dedication to this line of work.
Absolutely. And good luck to all that are looking to jump into it. You won't regret it. If this is a passion of yours, follow it, and you're going to have a great career.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I'll be right back with you.
All right. Thanks, Ashley.
All right, everybody. That was Jordan, fire admin out of Ontario, sharing all this great knowledge and information in regards to fire dispatching, and even, all of his previous experience with dispatching. So thank you, Jordan, for coming out and being willing and super excited to jump on really quickly with me to share all that information. Like Jordan said, they're going to have an opening. So I'm going to include that information in the link for this video. So if you're in that area looking to get into dispatching, definitely check it out and apply. Thank you again so much, guys. My name is Ashley. This is the Raspy Dispatcher. Make sure to subscribe, like, tell a friend, and we'll see you next time.